A teacher protects a vulnerable girl from bullying. Next day, her life changes forever. Welcome back and enjoy the story. Fiona pressed her coat tighter against her thinning frame, the icy wind stinging her face. She hadn't eaten properly, in days. Her last coins had gone to a dry sandwich for her son, Owen, who sat smiling in the corner of the school cafeteria, unaware of her empty stomach or the silent war she fought every day just to keep him safe. Cold November air seeped through the cracks in the cafeteria windows, a fitting backdrop to Fiona's exhaustion. At 32, widowed and struggling, she watched her son from across the room, his delicate fingers tracing equations in a worn notebook. The other children gave him a wide berth. His intelligence made them uncomfortable, and children were rarely kind to what they didn't understand. "Miss Parker, there's been another complaint." Principal Warren's voice sliced through her moment of peace. He stood beside her table, his bulky frame casting a shadow over her meager lunch, a cup of hot water with a tea bag she'd been reusing for days. About what, exactly? Fiona straightened her posture, though the exhaustion pulled at her shoulders. "Your teaching methods are unorthodox. Parents are concerned." His tone suggested it wasn't just the parents who were concerned. "You can't keep letting the children just explore. There's a curriculum to follow." Fiona's gaze drifted to a girl in the corner, Lily Thompson, who sat alone with bruises poorly hidden beneath her sleeves. She'd noticed those bruises 3 days ago, had reported them, but nothing had been done. "With respect, sir, sometimes the curriculum doesn't address what the children need most." Principal Warren's expression hardened. "Just follow the guidelines, Miss Parker, that's all we ask." He walked away, his polished shoes clicking against the linoleum floor. Fiona sighed, watching Owen scribble furiously in his notebook. He'd inherited his father's brilliance and passion. Victor had been the same way, intense, focused, alive with ideas, until the accident at the construction site took him 2 years ago, leaving her to raise their son alone in a world that seemed increasingly indifferent to struggle. As a substitute teacher at Westridge Elementary, one of the poorest schools in Chicago, Fiona fought daily battles. Her colleagues viewed her empathetic approach as weakness, her innovative ideas as disruption. The school was crumbling, literally and figuratively, yet no one seemed interested in real solutions. She rose from her seat intending to check on Owen when she noticed a woman watching her from across the cafeteria. The stranger was dressed impeccably in a tailored burgundy suit, her silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She carried an air of quiet authority that made Fiona instinctively straighten her threadbare cardigan. The woman approached with confident strides, stopping at Fiona's table. "I've been watching you," the woman said softly, her voice carrying a hint of an accent Fiona couldn't quite place. "The way you care for your son, and for Lily Thompson, it's rare." Fiona tensed, her protective instincts flaring. "Who are you?" "Geraldine Hayes. I'm on the board of Northcrest Academy." The woman extended her hand, which Fiona reluctantly shook. Northcrest Academy, the prestigious private school on the other side of the city, the kind of place where the wealthy sent their children to ensure they stayed wealthy. "If you're here to offer pity, save it," Fiona said, her voice stronger than she felt. "We manage just fine." "It's not pity," Geraldine replied, placing a gold-embossed card on the table. "It's a choice. Your son is brilliant. I've reviewed his assessment scores, and you're stronger than you think." She paused, her green eyes holding Fiona's gaze. "This is a full scholarship. Uniforms, meals, transport, everything." Fiona's heart pounded against her ribs. A full scholarship? It seemed impossible. "Why would you offer this to us? You don't even know us." "I know enough," Geraldine said simply. "I know that boy will change the world someday, if given the chance. And I know his mother sacrifices everything to protect him." She nodded toward Lily, who was quietly gathering her things. "Just as she tries to protect others who need it." Fiona wanted to believe her, but after being scammed, humiliated, and pushed to the edge before, trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Still, something in Geraldine's eyes made her grip the card with trembling fingers. "Think about it," Geraldine said, turning to leave. The offer stands until Friday. After that, she shrugged elegantly. Life moves forward. As the woman walked away, Fiona stared at the card in her hand. Embossed. Gold letters spelled out Northcrest Academy, alongside a phone number. It felt heavy, like a key to a door she'd never dared approach. Across the room, Owen looked up and smiled at her, unaware that this moment might be the pivot upon which his entire future would turn. The next morning, Fiona woke before dawn, the gold card still clutched in her hand where she'd fallen asleep staring at it. She'd spent hours researching Northcrest Academy online at the public library after school yesterday. The school was legitimate. More than legitimate, it was exceptional. Their science program alone had produced 3 Nobel laureates. But such opportunities rarely came without strings, and Fiona had learned the hard way that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. Still, as she watched Owen sleep, his thin frame curled beneath their only warm blanket, his extraordinary mind temporarily at rest, she knew she had to try. For him. She called the number on the card from the payphone outside their apartment building using precious quarters she'd been saving for laundry. To her surprise, Geraldine herself answered. "I'll accept the offer," Fiona said quickly, before she could change her mind. "For Owen?" "Excellent," Geraldine replied, sounding genuinely pleased. "Bring him to Northcrest tomorrow morning at 7:30. Everything will be ready." The line went dead before Fiona could ask any of the 100 questions swirling in her mind. That evening she told Owen about the new school. His reaction wasn't what she expected. Not excitement, but concern. "But what about you, Mom? What about your students?" Leave it to her son to worry about others first. "I'll still be teaching at Westridge," she assured him, though the thought of being separated from him during the day made her stomach clench, with anxiety. "This is an amazing opportunity for you, Owen. The facilities, the teachers, you'll be challenged in ways I can't provide." He nodded slowly, his wise eyes, so like his father's, studying her face. "Will you be okay without—" "Me there?" Fiona pulled him into a hug, hiding her face in his hair so he wouldn't see her tears. "I'm always okay when I know you're thriving." The next day, the elite school welcomed Owen like he belonged. Standing at the imposing wrought iron gates, Fiona watched as her son was ushered inside by a friendly-faced administrator who promised to take good care of your exceptional young man. Owen looked back once, his face a mixture of excitement and apprehension, before disappearing into the grand brick building with its manicured lawns and modern facilities. Fiona stood outside, feeling as though life had played some cruel joke. Here was her son, entering a world of privilege and opportunity, while she would return to Westridge to classrooms with broken windows and children who came to school hungry. What price would this miracle demand? Nothing this good came without a cost. She turned away, hugging herself against the cold, as she walked toward the bus stop that would take her back to her own school, her own reality. For the first time since Victor's death, she and Owen would spend the day in completely different worlds. The separation felt physical, a tearing sensation in her chest. At Westridge, Fiona moved through her day in a fog. She taught her lessons, mechanically, her mind constantly wandering to Owen. Was he adjusting? Were the other children, those wealthy, privileged children, being kind to him? Would he feel out of place in his second-hand clothes until the promised uniform arrived? "Miss Parker?" Fiona blinked, pulled from her worries by a small voice. Lily Thompson stood beside her desk, eyes downcast. "Yes, Lily." I wrote this for you." The girl slid a folded piece of paper across the desk, then quickly backed away. Fiona opened it to find a carefully drawn picture of 2 figures holding hands, a small one and a taller one with long hair. Underneath, in careful printing, "Thank you for seeing me." It was a stark reminder of why she'd become a teacher in the first place, to make a difference, even a small one, in children's lives, especially those who needed someone to simply see them. "It's beautiful, Lily," she said softly. "May I keep it?" The girl nodded, a ghost of a smile crossing her face before she hurried back to her seat. Fiona carefully tucked the drawing into her worn leather satchel, next to the photo of Owen and Victor she always carried. Perhaps she could survive this dual existence, her son in one world, her in another, if she remembered what mattered most. As weeks passed, Owen bloomed at Northcrest. He came home each day bubbling with stories of chemistry experiments, astronomical calculations, and teachers who understood his silence and brilliance. He'd made friends, real friends who shared his interests and didn't mock his enthusiasm. But Fiona struggled with guilt and inadequacy. She couldn't afford the field trips that required supplemental fees, birthday gifts for the parties he was suddenly being invited to, or even decent shoes to replace his worn-out sneakers. When Owen asked one evening, "Mom, are we poor?" it shattered something in her. "We're not poor in the ways that matter," she'd answered, forcing brightness into her voice. "We have each other. We have minds that work well. We have hearts that care." He'd accepted her answer with a thoughtful nod, but later that night, Fiona hid in the kitchen, counting bills and crying over cold tea. She missed Victor, missed having a partner to carry the weight of adulting, of parenting, of surviving. At Westridge, things were deteriorating. Principal Warren had grown increasingly hostile since Owen's departure to Northcrest, as if he took it as a personal affront that one of his students had been poached by an elite institution. "I don't know what game you're playing, Ms. Parker," he said one afternoon, cornering her in the empty teacher's lounge. "But sudden scholarships to fancy schools don't just fall out of the sky. What strings did you pull? Who did you know?" "I didn't pull any strings," Fiona replied, keeping her voice level despite her racing heart. "They recognized Owen's potential, that's all." Warren's eyes narrowed. "Just like you recognize potential in problem students like Lily Thompson? The girl's trouble always has been, just like her mother." Fiona's hands clenched around her mug. "Lily is a child who needs support, not judgment. What she needs is discipline and realistic expectations. Not everyone gets to escape to Northcrest Academy." His tone made the school's name sound like a curse. "Most of these kids will be lucky to graduate high school. Your bleeding heart doesn't prepare them for that reality." He stormed out, leaving Fiona trembling with anger and a growing sense of dread. Warren wasn't just annoyed. He seemed determined to undermine her at every turn. That evening, as she helped Owen with homework that challenged even her college-educated mind, her phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but she answered, hoping it wasn't another bill collector. "Ms. Parker, this is Dr. Reeves from Northcrest Academy." Fiona's stomach dropped. Had something happened to Owen? Had they discovered some reason he shouldn't be there after all? "Your son's test results are extraordinary," the woman continued, her voice warm with excitement. "Truly remarkable. We've had his cognitive assessments reviewed by specialists, and they confirm what we suspected. We believe he's gifted on a global scale. A special program is being prepared for him and a few other exceptional students. We'd like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss the details." Relief flooded through Fiona, followed quickly by pride. "I'll be there," she promised, looking at Owen, who was watching her with curious eyes. After hanging up, she explained the call. Owen's reaction was subdued. He never did like being the center of attention, but she could see the pleased flush on his cheeks. "Do you think Dad would be proud?" he asked suddenly, his voice small. Fiona's throat tightened. "Oh, Owen. He was proud of you every single day, and he would be bursting with pride now." Later that night, after Owen had gone to bed, Fiona found an envelope that had been slipped under their apartment door. No postmark, no address, just her name written in elegant script. Inside was a bank card and a letter. "This is for you, not your son," the letter read. "You've sacrificed enough. Use this without guilt. You are more valuable than you realize, and tomorrow your son's life will change again. Will you have the courage to let him fly higher than you ever dreamed? G.H." Fiona stared at the bank card, her heart pounding. Was this charity? A bribe? Something more sinister? She contemplated throwing it away, but curiosity got the better of her. At the ATM down the street, she checked the balance with trembling fingers. The screen showed a number that made her knees buckle. $50,000. Fiona wept silently. There in the harsh fluorescent light of the convenience store ATM, unsure whether from relief, suspicion, or some complex emotion that had no name. If you are enjoying the story, type 5 in the comments and subscribe for more videos like this. If not, Type 0. It helps me create even better content for you. Continuing. The next morning, Fiona dressed in her best outfit, a simple navy, dress she kept for parent-teacher conferences, and accompanied Owen to Northcrest Academy. They were ushered into a spacious conference room where Geraldine Hayes waited alongside several distinguished-looking individuals. "Fiona, Owen, welcome," Geraldine said warmly. "I'd like you to meet Dr. Reeves, our head of academics, Professor Chen from MIT and Dr. Abernathy from NASA's Educational Outreach Program." Fiona shook hands mechanically, feeling increasingly out of place among these accomplished professionals. Owen surprisingly seemed at ease, asking Dr. Abernathy a detailed question about the James Webb Space Telescope that Fiona couldn't begin to understand. As Owen engaged with the scientists, Geraldine drew Fiona aside. "You found my gift." It wasn't a question. Fiona nodded, her cheeks burning with a mixture of gratitude and shame. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why us? Why me?" Geraldine's expression softened. "Because talent like Owen's deserves nurturing without the burden of financial stress, and because teachers like you, who truly see children, are increasingly rare. The account is yours, no strings attached." "I can't accept—" "You can, and you will," Geraldine interrupted gently. "Think of it as an investment in both of you. What you do with it is your choice." Before Fiona could argue further, Dr. Reeves called them back to the table. "We'd like to invite Owen to join our Horizon program," she explained. "It's a specialized track for exceptionally gifted students, with personalized mentorship from leading minds in their fields of interest." Professor Chen leaned forward. "Based on Owen's assessments and his work these past weeks, we believe his aptitude for theoretical physics is, well, I haven't seen anything like it in 30 years of teaching." "What exactly would this program involve?" Fiona asked, trying to focus despite the lingering shock of the morning's revelations. "Accelerated coursework, obviously," Dr. Reeves replied, "plus weekly sessions with visiting experts, access to university-level research facilities, and eventually placement in international competitions and symposiums." The opportunities they described were beyond anything Fiona could have imagined for her son. This was a path to places she couldn't have taken him, not due to lack of love or desire, but simple lack of resources and connections. "Would he still be here at Northcrest?" she asked, suddenly afraid they might send him away to some exclusive boarding school. "Of course," Geraldine assured her. "He'd maintain a modified regular schedule with his peers, supplemented by the special programming. We believe balance is essential for development, even for minds as exceptional as Owen's." They outlined the program in detail, the additional hours, the expectations, the potential outcomes. Throughout the presentation, Owen remained thoughtful, asking insightful questions that impressed even the MIT professor. At the end, Dr. Reeves turned to Owen. "What do you think? Would you like to join the Horizon program?" Owen looked at Fiona, seeking her guidance. In that moment, she saw both her little boy and the remarkable man he might become. She nodded almost imperceptibly, giving him permission to choose. "Yes," he said simply. "I think I would." The drive home was quiet, both Parker minds processing the morning's events. The world seemed to be expanding around them at a dizzying rate, opportunities unfolding like exotic flowers. "Mom?" Owen finally broke the silence as they neared their apartment building. "Are you happy about this, really?" Fiona pulled into their usual parking spot and turned to face her son. "I'm beyond happy, Owen. I'm awestruck by you. Every day." He smiled, that rare, full smile that transformed his serious face. "I'm going to discover something amazing someday. Something that helps people, and when I do, I'm going to make sure everyone knows it was because of you." She hugged him fiercely, her heart full. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that perhaps the universe wasn't conspiring against them after all. But good fortune, Fiona would soon learn, comes with shadows. Not everyone celebrates when someone rises from the ashes. The following Monday, Principal Warren summoned Fiona to his office during her planning period. His expression was thunderous, as she entered the cramped, overheated room. "Sit down, Ms. Parker." She did, her back straight, hands folded calmly, in her lap despite her racing pulse. "I've received some concerning information." He slid a folder across his cluttered desk. "Your son has been accepted into some elite program at Northcrest, I hear. Quite the meteoric rise for a boy from Westridge." Fiona didn't touch the folder. "Yes, he has. He's very gifted." "So gifted that he attracted the personal attention of Geraldine Hayes, one of the wealthiest women in Chicago." Warren's voice dripped with insinuation. "And now suddenly there's talk of you leaving us mid-year. Very convenient." Fiona blinked in genuine confusion. "Leaving? I haven't—" "Don't play innocent," he snapped. "I have sources at Northcrest. They say you've been offered a position in their elementary division, starting next semester." This was news to Fiona, but she kept her expression neutral, not wanting to give Warren the satisfaction of her surprise. "If I have, it's the first I'm hearing of it." Warren's eyes narrowed. "I find that hard to believe. Just like I find it hard to believe that your son's extraordinary opportunity came without persuasion." His gaze slid meaningfully over her figure. "What did you offer that rich woman in return? How did your son just happen to get in?" Fury rose in Fiona like a tidal wave. "That's enough," she said, her voice deadly quiet. "My son earned his place through his intelligence and hard work. If you're implying anything else, you're not just being unprofessional, you're being despicable." Warren leaned back, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "Careful, Ms. Parker. Your position here is already precarious. Your methods are unorthodox. Your relationship with certain students inappropriately close. I'd hate for there to be an official investigation into your practices." The threat hung in the air between them, ugly and explicit. "This is not a bribe," Fiona said firmly, rising to her feet. "My son earned it. I've earned whatever opportunities come my way through years of dedicated teaching. If you'll excuse me, I have a class to prepare for." She turned and walked out, her hands trembling but her spine steel straight. In the hallway she leaned against the wall, breathing deeply to calm herself. Warren's insinuations were vile, but more disturbing was the news about an offer from Northcrest. Was that Geraldine's plan all along? As if summoned by her thoughts, Fiona's phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Car park. After school. GH." The rest of the day passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. When the final bell rang, Fiona gathered her things with unusual haste and headed for the parking lot, where a sleek black town car waited. The back door opened as she approached, revealing Geraldine seated elegantly inside. "Join me," she said, gesturing to the opposite seat. Fiona slid in, the door closing behind her with a soft thud that felt oddly final. "Is it true?" she asked without preamble. "About a job at Northcrest?" Geraldine smiled. "News travels fast. Yes, we'd like to offer you a position teaching 4th grade. Your approach to education aligns perfectly with our philosophy." "And Warren knows because I wanted him to," Geraldine replied simply. "Men like him need to understand they don't hold all the power." For the first time, Fiona glimpsed something steely beneath Geraldine's polished exterior, a hardness born of battles fought and won. "He threatened me today, implied I'd done something inappropriate to secure Owen's place." Geraldine's expression darkened. "I suspected he might. Don't worry. We monitor schools like Westridge closely. We know who helps children and who crushes them." She paused, studying Fiona's face. "Warren's days as an educator are numbered, with or without your involvement." Fiona's mind reeled. "Who are you really? What is this all about?" "I'm exactly who I appear to be, a board member at Northcrest Academy. But I'm also someone who recognizes potential and believes in creating opportunities." Geraldine hesitated, then continued more softly. "I lost my chance to be a mother 20 years ago. Cancer. Helping children like Owen, teachers like you, it helps me heal. But more than that, I believe in what you stand for, Fiona." The confession hung between them, raw and honest. "Join me," Geraldine said. "We'll fix the system from the inside. Northcrest has resources, not just money, but influence. Imagine what we could do for more children like Owen, or Lily. Fiona trembled. The offer was tempting, a chance to escape Warren's threats, to work in an environment that valued education, to be closer to Owen. But part of her had always been a fighter. She'd stayed at Westridge because those children needed advocates, teachers who wouldn't give up on them. I want peace, she admitted. For Owen, for myself. Maybe peace isn't what the world needs from you right now, Geraldine replied. Maybe it needs your fire. The statement resonated through Fiona like a bell being struck. Before she could respond, her phone chimed with a text from Owen asking when she'd be home. Think about it, Geraldine said, opening the car door. The position is yours if you want it, starting January. Fiona nodded, stepping out into the cold afternoon air, her mind swirling with possibilities and responsibilities. That night, after a simple dinner of pasta and vegetables, a luxury compared to their usual meals purchased with the new bank card she'd finally decided to use, Fiona sat on their worn couch, staring at the paint peeling from their apartment ceiling. Owen emerged from the tiny bedroom they shared, clutching his notebook. Mom, can I ask you something important? Always. He sat beside her, his thin shoulders squared with determination. Would you be happy working at my school? The question, so direct and yet so complex, caught her off guard. I don't know. Maybe. Why do you ask? Because Ms. Hayes told me they wanted you to teach there. He looked down at his hands. And I think you should say yes. Owen, sweetheart, my job is to do what's best for you, not the other way around. He looked up, his eyes so like Victor's, serious and thoughtful. But what if what's best for me is also what's best for you? You always say we're a team. Fiona pulled him close, breathing in the scent of his hair. We are a team. The best team. Then say yes, he whispered against her shoulder. Please. Mom, I see how tired you are, how sad sometimes. And the teachers at Northcrest are happy, they smile, they have time to think. Tears pricked at Fiona's eyes. When had her 9-year-old become so perceptive, so wise? What about Lily and the other kids at Westridge? They need teachers who care. Owen pulled back, his expression earnest. But maybe you can help them better from Northcrest. Ms. Hayes says the school has outreach programs. You could design something. Make it better. Fiona considered his words. Perhaps he was right. Perhaps she'd been so focused on fighting from within a broken system that she hadn't considered the power of fighting from a position of strength. I'll think about it, she promised. Really think about it. He smiled, satisfied. Good. As she tucked him into bed later, Fiona was struck by how much their lives had changed in just a few weeks, from barely surviving to whatever this new reality was becoming. Opportunity, hope, possibility. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to say yes to that possibility. For Owen, for herself, for all the children who deserved someone to see them, truly see them in a world that too often looked away. Will she finally find the happiness she deserves? Will her courage to accept help transform not just her life, but the lives of countless children who need an advocate? Little did Fiona know that her greatest challenge was still to come. One that would test not just her courage, but her faith in humanity itself. The days that followed brought a flurry of activity. Once Fiona accepted the position at Northcrest, still hardly believing it was real, things moved with surprising speed. Geraldine arranged for a real estate agent to help them find an apartment closer to the school, one with 2 bedrooms and windows that actually sealed against the wind. The rent was subsidized as part of her employment package, making it affordable. On her new teacher's salary, which was nearly double what she'd earned at Westridge. This can't be happening, Fiona whispered to herself as she signed the lease, her signature shaky with disbelief. Oh, but it is, the agent said cheerfully, misinterpreting her comment. You can move in next weekend, just in time for the holidays. December had arrived with its usual mix of festive cheer and biting cold. For the first time since Victor's death, Fiona felt a stirring of genuine excitement about Christmas. This year, she could afford presents for Owen without sacrificing groceries or heat. This year, they might even have a tree. At Westridge, She worked out her notice period with a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. Most of her colleagues seemed indifferent to her departure, some even envious, but a few students were devastated. Lily Thompson, in particular, took the news hard. "You can't leave," she said during recess, her eyes wide with betrayal. "Who's going to help us?" Fiona knelt beside the girl. "I'm not abandoning you, Lily. In fact, I have something special to tell you." She lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "I've been working with some people at my new school to create a special Saturday program for students from Westridge and other schools. Art, science, music, all the things that sometimes get cut from regular school. And I want you to be the first student I invite." Lily's expression shifted from hurt to cautious hope. "Really? Me? Really?" Fiona squeezed her hand. "You have something special, Lily. A way of seeing the world that deserves to be nurtured." The girl's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. Principal Warren, meanwhile, had become increasingly hostile. The day after Fiona submitted her resignation, he'd called her into his office again. "I hope you know what you're doing," he said, his tone deceptively casual. "Private schools can be fickle. Today's valued teacher is tomorrow's obsolete." "Method." Fiona met his gaze steadily. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm comfortable with my decision. And what about your relationship with Geraldine Hayes? Are you comfortable with that becoming public knowledge? People might misinterpret." The implied threat hung in the air between them. "Ms. Hayes is a professional colleague who recognized potential in both my son and myself," Fiona replied, coolly. "Any other interpretation would say more about the person suggesting it than about the reality." Warren's face flushed with anger. "You think you're so much better than the rest of us, don't you? Always with your innovative methods and your special attention to troubled students. But I see through it. You're just using those kids to make yourself feel important. Noble." The accusation stung, not because it held any truth, but because it revealed how fundamentally Warren misunderstood the essence of teaching. "I'm sorry you feel that way," Fiona said quietly. "Teaching isn't about feeling important, it's about doing important work, sometimes quietly, without recognition. I hope someday you remember that." She walked out, leaving him spluttering with indignation. That evening, as she packed books into cardboard boxes borrowed from the grocery store, her phone rang. It was Geraldine. "How are you holding up?" the older woman asked without preamble. "Overwhelmed," Fiona admitted. "Everything's happening so fast." "Too fast?" Fiona considered the question. "No," she finally said. "Just unexpectedly fast. I'm still catching my breath." Geraldine laughed, a warm sound that reminded Fiona of her own mother. Gone now. For a decade. Life does that sometimes. It stands still for years, then suddenly accelerates without warning. That's exactly it. "Listen, I'm calling because there's been a development with Lily Thompson." Fiona's heart seized. "Is she okay?" "She's safe," Geraldine assured her quickly. "But there's been an incident at home. Her mother's boyfriend became physical. Neighbors called the police. Lily's temporarily in emergency foster care." "Oh, God." Fiona sank onto the couch, her legs suddenly weak. "Poor Lily. I knew something was happening there. I reported it, but the system moves slowly," Geraldine finished for her. "I know. That's why I've had my people monitoring the situation." "Your people?" "I have connections in social services. After our conversation about Lily, I made some inquiries." There was a pause. "Fiona, there's something else. Lily's mother is unable to care for her right now. She's entered a treatment program for substance abuse. It's voluntary, which is good, but it means Lily needs placement for at least 6 months. Fiona's mind was racing. "What can I do? I'll visit her, bring her things, whatever she needs." "There's something more you could consider," Geraldine said carefully. "Lily needs a foster placement, someone familiar, stable, someone who sees her." The implication hung in the air, both terrifying and somehow inevitable. "Me?" Fiona whispered. "You think I should foster Lily?" "I think you should consider it," Geraldine replied. "You're already certified as a teacher, which expedites some of the background checks. The new apartment has 2 bedrooms, and most importantly, You understand her in a way few others would. But Owen might benefit from having someone else to care about besides you, Geraldine suggested gently. He's a remarkably empathetic child. Fiona's thoughts whirled. Foster a child. She could barely keep herself and Owen afloat most days. But then things were changing. The new job, the apartment, the financial breathing room provided by Geraldine's gift. I need to think about this, she said finally. Talk to Owen. Of course, but time is somewhat of the essence. If you're interested, I can have my contact at DCFS call you tomorrow with details. After hanging up, Fiona sat in the dimly lit apartment surrounded by half-packed boxes, her mind in turmoil. The idea of fostering Lily was simultaneously terrifying and compelling. Could she really take on the responsibility of another child, even temporarily? But the alternative, Lily placed with strangers who didn't know her history, her talents, her fears, seemed worse. When Owen came in from doing his homework at the kitchen table, Fiona looked up at him with a thoughtful expression. "Owen, I need to talk to you about something important," she said, patting the couch beside her. He joined her, his face immediately serious. "Is everything okay? Do you remember Lily Thompson from my class at Westridge?" Owen nodded. "The quiet girl who draws really good pictures? You showed me one she made for you." Fiona smiled, touched that he'd remembered. "That's right. Lily is in a difficult situation right now. Her mum needs some time to get better, and Lily needs a safe place to stay for a while." Understanding dawned in Owen's eyes. "You want her to stay with us?" "I'm considering it," Fiona said carefully. "It would be a big change. She'd share your room in the new apartment. We'd be responsible for her, school, meals, clothes, everything, for maybe 6 months or more." Owen was quiet for a long moment, processing this information with his typical thoroughness. "Would it make you happy? Helping her?" The question caught Fiona off guard. "It's not about my happiness, sweetheart. It's about what's best for all of us." "But you always say helping people who need it is important. That's why you became a teacher." Fiona's throat tightened with emotion. "Yes, that's true. Then we should help her," Owen said simply. "She can have my bed. I can sleep on the floor." "Oh, Owen!" Fiona pulled him into a tight hug. "You wouldn't have to sleep on the floor. We'd get another bed, but are you sure it would change things for us?" He pulled back and looked at her with Victor's thoughtful eyes. "Mum, everything's already changing, and maybe this is supposed to be part of it." In that moment, Fiona saw not just the brilliant mind everyone at Northcrest celebrated, but the compassionate heart that made Owen truly exceptional. "I'll call Miss Hayes back," she decided, "and tell her we want to help Lily." The next morning, the process began with dizzying speed. Geraldine's connections smoothed the bureaucratic pathways that might otherwise have taken weeks to navigate. Within days, Fiona had completed emergency foster parent certification, transformed their packing schedule to include setting up the second bedroom, and prepared to welcome Lily into their home. Owen, to Fiona's ongoing amazement, took on the challenge with enthusiasm, helping to select bedding for Lily's bed and clearing half his bookshelf for her things. "Do you think she likes space books?" he asked as they shopped for essentials at a discount store. "I'm not sure," Fiona admitted, "but I know she loves art. Maybe we could get her some drawing supplies." Owen nodded seriously, already planning how to make their new family member feel welcome. 3 days before they were scheduled to move into the new apartment, Fiona met with Lily's social worker, a harried-looking woman named Ms. Torres. "Normally, we wouldn't place a child with a single parent who's also in transition," Ms. Torres explained, shuffling through paperwork in her cluttered office. "But given your relationship with Lily as her teacher, and the unusual level of support you have from certain influential parties, an exception has been made." The reference to Geraldine's involvement was clear, though unspoken. "I understand. This is unconventional," Fiona said, "but I believe it's what's best for Lily right now." Ms. Torres's expression softened slightly. "For what it's worth, I agree. The first time I mentioned your name, that child smiled for the first time since being removed from her home." She closed the folder. "She's at the Brightwood Emergency Send her now, you can pick her up tomorrow afternoon. Fiona spent that night in a state of nervous anticipation. Was she making the right decision? Could she really care for two children, one of whom had experienced significant trauma? What if she failed them both? You're overthinking again, Owen observed at breakfast, watching her stir her coffee long after the sugar had dissolved. She laughed softly. When did you get so perceptive? He shrugged, spooning cereal into his mouth. Dad always said you think too much about the wrong things, like worst-case scenarios instead of best-case ones. The casual mention of Victor made Fiona's heart twist with that familiar mixture of pain and sweetness. He was right about that. So, think about the best case, Owen suggested. Lily will be safe. She'll have a room with purple walls because, you said that's her favorite color. We'll be in the new apartment near my school. You'll teach at Northcrest and maybe, he hesitated, suddenly shy, maybe we'll feel more like a whole family again. Fiona's eyes filled with tears. When did you get so wise, Owen Parker? He grinned, suddenly looking like the 9-year-old boy he was, rather than the old soul who sometimes spoke through him. I get it from my mum. That afternoon they drove to Brightwood in Fiona's ancient Honda, newly equipped with a booster seat for Lily. The emergency center was a bland institutional building that tried to disguise its purpose with cheerful murals and potted plants. Inside, children of various ages played in a common area, while staff members watched with careful attention. Lily sat alone by a window, her small frame hunched protectively around a backpack, her eyes fixed on the parking lot as if willing someone to appear. When she spotted Fiona and Owen walking toward the entrance, her entire demeanor changed. She pressed her hands against the glass, her face lighting up with hope and relief. By the time they reached the reception desk, Lily was already there, having run from her observation post. You came, she said simply, her voice thick with emotion. You really came. Fiona knelt to Lily's level. Of course we did. We've been getting everything ready for you. Lily looked uncertainly at Owen, who gave her a small, awkward wave. Hi, he said. I'm Owen. My mom says you're really good at drawing. The girl nodded cautiously. Your mom is the best teacher ever. Owen smiled. Yeah, I know. That simple exchange seemed to break the ice. By the time they'd completed the necessary paperwork and loaded Lily's few belongings into the car, the children were comparing notes on their favorite colors. Lily's was indeed purple. Owen's was either blue or maybe green, I can't decide. The next 3 days were a whirlwind of activity. They moved into the new apartment with help from a couple of Northcrest maintenance staff whom Geraldine had volunteered for the task. The children explored every corner of their new home with the excitement only the young can muster, for floor-to-ceiling windows and a kitchen with an island. Is this really all ours? Lily asked repeatedly, as if afraid it might disappear if she blinked too long. Yes, Fiona assured her each time. This is our home now. Slowly, Lily began to unfurl from the tight, defensive posture she'd maintained since leaving Brightwood. She arranged her meager possessions in her half of the bedroom with careful precision. She offered to help with dishes after meals. She drew pictures, beautiful, detailed works that showed both her talent and her emotional state, and carefully presented them to Fiona and Owen. One evening, as December darkness fell early outside their new windows, Fiona sat on the couch, with a rare moment of peace, watching the children play a board game on the living room floor. Owen was patiently explaining the rules to Lily, who listened with intense concentration. In that moment, Fiona felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Contentment. Not perfect happiness. The hole left by Victor could never be completely filled, but a warm, steady sense that things were as they should be. Her phone buzzed with a text from Geraldine. How are you all settling in? Fiona took a photo of the children and sent it with the caption, better than I could have imagined. The reply came swiftly. This is just the beginning. Wait until you see what's next. The cryptic message might have worried the old Fiona, but now she found herself curious rather than anxious. Whatever came next, they would face it together, her unexpected, unconventional family. Have you ever taken a chance on helping someone in need, even when it seemed risky or complicated? If you have a story like this, please share it in the Comments. The winter break arrived with a flurry of snow and end-of-term celebrations. Owen's Horizon program held a special presentation where the children demonstrated their projects to an audience of parents, teachers, and what Fiona strongly suspected were potential donors to Northcrest's endowment. Owen had created a complex model demonstrating principles of quantum entanglement that left most adults, including Fiona, slightly bewildered but impressed. His mentors, however, were ecstatic, speaking in animated scientific terminology that might as well have been a foreign language. "Your son has remarkable intuition for theoretical concepts," Professor Chen told Fiona afterward. "The way he visualizes abstract mathematical relationships, it's a gift we rarely see even in graduate students." Fiona felt the familiar mixture of pride and mild intimidation that came with parenting a child whose mind sometimes seemed to operate in another dimension entirely. "He gets that from his father," she said, watching Owen carefully pack up his demonstration materials. Victor could see patterns in things that seemed chaotic to everyone else. "Well, he clearly gets his communication skills from you," the professor observed. "Many brilliant minds struggle to explain their ideas to others. Owen has a natural clarity. That's as valuable as the ideas themselves." The compliment warmed Fiona, a reminder that she contributed something essential to her son's development beyond just keeping him fed and clothed. Lily had insisted on attending Owen's presentation, sitting wide-eyed in the audience and applauding loudly when he finished. Afterward, she shocked both Parker adults by approaching Professor Chen directly. "Does Owen's project have anything to do with Star Trek transporters?" she asked, her voice small but determined. The MIT professor blinked in surprise, then broke into a genuine smile. "As a matter of fact, it does relate to some of the theoretical physics that might someday make transportation technology possible. Are you interested in science fiction?" Lily nodded solemnly. "My dad used to watch Star Trek with me before he went away to the army. He said scientists make science fiction real if they work hard enough." Professor Chen knelt to her level. "Your dad was absolutely right. Would you like me to explain a bit more about how Owen's project connects to transportation theory?" To everyone's surprise, Lily nodded eagerly, and soon she was deeply engaged in conversation with one of the world's leading physicists, asking questions that made the adults exchange impressed glances over her head. Later that evening, as they walked home through gently falling snow, Owen said something that stopped Fiona in her tracks. "I think Lily should join the Horizon program too." Fiona looked at him in surprise. "Sweetheart, Lily's talents are different from yours. She's artistic, creative." "No, Mom," Owen interrupted with unusual firmness. "She understands. Today, when Professor Chen was explaining about quantum superposition, she got it faster than any of the other adults. She just sees things differently. But she still sees them." Fiona glanced at Lily, who was walking ahead of them, catching snowflakes on her tongue with childish delight. Was it possible? Had they all underestimated this quiet, traumatized child? "I'll talk to Dr. Reeves after the break," she promised. "Maybe they can assess Lily too." Owen nodded, satisfied, and hurried to join Lily in her snowflake-catching game. Christmas approached with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Fiona worried that the holiday might trigger difficult emotions for Lily, whose mother remained in treatment with only limited supervised visits permitted. But the girl threw herself into decorating their small tree with homemade ornaments, seemingly determined to embrace this new chapter of her life. On Christmas Eve, after the children had finally gone to bed, vibrating with anticipation for the modest but carefully chosen gifts Fiona had placed under the tree, the doorbell rang. Fiona opened it to find Geraldine standing there, elegant, as always in a camel hair coat, arms laden with packages. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion," she said, stepping inside as Fiona moved aside in surprise. "I wanted to drop these off personally." "You didn't have to bring gifts," Fiona protested, though she was touched by the gesture. "Of course I did. That's what friends do." Geraldine hesitated over the word, as if testing how it felt. "And, speaking of friends, I have news that couldn't wait until after the holidays." She settled on the couch, declining Fiona's offer of tea or coffee. "I've been in contact with Lily's mother, Janet. Fiona tensed. Is everything all right? Better. That's all right, Geraldine assured her. She's doing remarkably well in the program. So well, in fact, that her counselors are discussing early completion. She could be ready for reunification as soon as March rather than June. Mixed emotions flooded through Fiona. Happiness for Lily and her mother, but also a surprising pang at the thought of the girl leaving their home sooner than expected. That's wonderful news, she said, meaning it despite the complexity of her feelings. Lily will be thrilled. There's more, Geraldine continued. Janet has been taking vocational training as part of her recovery program. She's shown an aptitude for administrative work. When she completes the program, there will be a position waiting for her at Northcrest. Fiona stared in disbelief. At Northcrest? As in she and Lily would remain part of your extended community, Geraldine confirmed. Janet would work in the administrative offices, and Lily would transfer to Northcrest as a student, with a full scholarship naturally. The pieces fell into place with dizzying speed in Fiona's mind. This is why you wanted me to foster Lily. You were already planning this. Geraldine's expression turned rueful. I had hopes, not plans. Janet needed to demonstrate her commitment to recovery first. But yes, I saw a potential path where everyone could benefit. She leaned forward intently. Is that manipulative of me? Perhaps. But I prefer to think of it as creating opportunities where they didn't exist before. Fiona should have felt used or at least wary of Geraldine's behind-the-scenes orchestrations. Instead, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Why? She asked simply. Why do all this for us? For Lily and her mother? Geraldine was quiet. For a long moment. Because 30 years ago I was Janet, she finally said, her voice soft but steady. A single mother with a brilliant daughter, struggling with trauma and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Someone gave me a chance when I didn't deserve one. I swore I'd pass that chance on when I could. The revelation hung in the air between them, reshaping Fiona's understanding of this elegant, powerful woman. What happened to your daughter? She asked gently. Pain flickered across Geraldine's features. She's a physicist now in Switzerland. We speak occasionally, but some wounds heal slowly, even with time and success. She straightened, visibly pushing the emotion aside. But that's not your concern. Your concern is the children sleeping down the hall, and the extraordinary futures they'll have if we continue to clear the path for them. After Geraldine left, Fiona stood at the window watching snow transform the city into something magical and clean. Outside, carolers moved from building to building, their voices rising in harmonious celebration of hope and renewal. For the first time in years, those themes resonated deeply within her. Hope wasn't just a word to get her through difficult days anymore. It was a tangible force reshaping her world, opening doors she hadn't known existed. The sound of a small voice pulled her from her reverie. Mom? She turned to find Lily standing in the hallway, hair mussed from sleep, clutching the stuffed elephant Fiona had given her the day she moved in. Can't sleep, sweetheart. Lily shook her head, padding across the room to join Fiona at the window. The singing woke me up. I'm sorry, do you want me to close the window? No. Lily leaned against Fiona's side, a gesture of trust that still felt new and precious. It's pretty, like a movie. They stood together, watching the carolers move. On to the next building, their voices fading into the snowy night. My real mum used to sing to me, Lily said suddenly. Before things got bad. Fiona put an arm around the girl's thin shoulders. She's working very hard to get better so she can sing to you again. I know. Lily's voice was small, but clear. Ms. Torres told me she's doing really good. She is, Fiona confirmed. And guess what? I heard that when she's all better, you two might live nearby. Maybe even close enough that you could still see Owen and me all the time. Lily looked up, her face illuminated with cautious hope. Really? We wouldn't have to go far away. Really? The girl seemed to consider this carefully. That would be good because... She hesitated, then continued in a rush. Because you and Owen feel like family, too. And I didn't think I could have two families, but maybe I can. Fiona knelt, bringing herself to Lily's eye level. You absolutely can have two families. Families come in all different shapes and sizes, and the best ones are big enough to include everyone who loves you. Lily nodded, satisfied with this explanation, and rested her head against Fiona's shoulder. "Christmas is tomorrow," she whispered, as if sharing a magnificent secret. "It is," Fiona agreed, smiling at the child's excitement. "We should get you back to bed, or Santa might skip our apartment." As she tucked Lily back into bed, the girl caught her hand. "Miss Parker, Fiona." "Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for bringing me home with you." The simple statement, delivered with such earnest gratitude, broke open something in Fiona's heart, releasing a flood of emotion she hadn't realized was dammed up inside her. "Oh, Lily, thank you for coming into our lives. You've brought so much joy with you." The girl smiled sleepily and closed her eyes, secure in the knowledge that she was wanted, valued, loved. Fiona crept from the room, careful not to wake Owen, who slept soundly in the bed across from Lily's. In the hallway, she allowed herself a moment of quiet tears, not of sadness, but of profound gratitude for the unexpected journey that had brought them all together. What will the morning bring for this newly formed family? As dawn breaks on Christmas Day, will the gifts under the tree be just the beginning of the miracles in store? And when Lily's mother completes her recovery, how will these intertwined lives continue to support and elevate each other? Christmas morning arrived with the kind of perfect, crystalline light that only seems to exist in December. Fiona woke early, the habit of a lifetime of responsibility ingrained too deeply for even holiday relaxation to disrupt. She padded to the kitchen, intending to start breakfast before the children awoke, only to find Owen already there, carefully measuring coffee grounds into the filter. "Merry Christmas," he whispered, his serious face breaking into a smile. "I wanted to surprise you." Fiona hugged him, marveling as always at how he seemed to grow taller every day. "This is a lovely surprise, thank you. Lily helped me set it up last night," he confided. "She showed me how to use the timer so it would start brewing right before you usually wake up." The mention of Lily reminded Fiona of their middle-of-the-night conversation. "Is she still sleeping?" Owen nodded. She was really excited about today. It took her forever to fall asleep. As if summoned by their discussion, Lily appeared in the doorway, her hair sticking up in wild directions, eyes wide with anticipation. "Is it time?" she asked breathlessly. "Can we see if Santa came?" Fiona laughed, caught up in the girl's infectious excitement. "Let's have a quick breakfast first, then presents." But the children were too keyed up to eat more than a few bites of the French toast Fiona prepared. Finally, she relented, and they moved to the living room, where the small tree glittered with lights and homemade ornaments. The modest pile of gifts beneath it had mysteriously grown overnight, Geraldine's additions making it look far more abundant than Fiona's careful budget had allowed. She felt a momentary pang of something like embarrassment, knowing her own gifts would be overshadowed, but quickly pushed it aside. This wasn't about her pride. It was about the children's joy, and joyful they were. Owen exclaimed over scientific books and a telescope that must have cost more than Fiona earned in a month. Lily unwrapped art supplies of professional quality, a purple bicycle with training wheels, and a tablet preloaded with educational games. Fiona's gifts, handmade scarves for both children, books she'd found at a second-hand shop, but carefully selected for each child's interests, and small jewelry boxes she'd restored herself, were received with equal enthusiasm. Owen immediately wrapped his scarf around his neck, declaring it the softest ever, while Lily clutched her jewelry box to her chest, running her fingers over the patterns Fiona had carefully painted on its lid. "It's so beautiful," she whispered. "Did you make this just for me?" "Just for you," Fiona confirmed, touched by the girl's appreciation for something that had cost so little in money, but so much in time and thought. When all the gifts seemed to be unwrapped, Owen reached behind the tree and pulled out 2 small packages. "These are from me and Lily," he said, suddenly shy. "We made them at school." Fiona opened the first to find a handcrafted ornament, a ceramic star painted with swirling blues and greens, Owen's favorite colors. "It's beautiful," she said, hanging it immediately on a prominent branch of the tree. The second package contained a framed drawing, unmistakably Lily's work. It showed 3 figures holding hands in front of a house that looked remarkably like their apartment building. Below, in careful printing, "My second family." "Oh, Lily," Fiona breathed, tears springing to her eyes. "This is the most wonderful gift," the girl beamed with pride. "Owen helped me with the frame. His teacher showed us how to make them." Fiona gathered both children into a hug, overwhelmed by the simple perfection of the moment. This, she thought, was what all the struggle had been for. Not just survival, but the creation of a place where love could flourish, where children could feel secure enough to create, to dream, to grow. The rest of the day passed in a haze of hot chocolate, board games, and phone calls from well-wishers. Geraldine called to check if the gifts had been well received. Lily's social worker, Ms. Torres, called to wish them happy holidays and to confirm that Lily would have a supervised visit with her mother the following day. As evening fell, Fiona prepared a simple but special dinner: roast chicken, mashed, potatoes and carrots glazed with honey. They ate by candlelight at Lily's request, the children's faces glowing in the warm light as they recounted their favorite moments of the day. Later, as Fiona tucked them into bed, both children were so exhausted from excitement that they fell asleep almost immediately. She stood in the doorway watching them for a moment, these 2 remarkable children who had become the center of her world in different but equally profound ways. The path ahead was uncertain. Lily would eventually return to her mother. Owen would continue to accelerate academically, potentially moving beyond what even Northcrest could offer. Fiona herself was still adjusting to her new role, her new community, her new understanding of what was possible. But tonight, in the quiet aftermath of Christmas, she felt a deep sense of rightness. Whatever challenges tomorrow brought, they would face them together, with open hearts and the growing confidence that came from having weathered storms and found unexpected sunshine on the other side. The winter break passed in a blur of quiet pleasures: sledding at the park, movie marathons on snowy afternoons, cooking experiments that ranged from triumphant, Lily's surprisingly delicious peanut butter cookies, to disastrous, Owen's attempt at chemistry-inspired molecular hot chocolate that exploded spectacularly. Lily's visits with her mother went well, each reunion showing visible improvement in Janet Thompson's health and demeanor. She was gaining weight, her complexion clearing, her eyes bright with determination and hope. During the 3rd visit, which Fiona supervised at Janet's request, the woman pulled her aside while the children explored the community center's playroom. "I can never thank you enough," Janet said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "What you've done for Lily, taking her in, loving her. I was so afraid she'd end up with strangers who wouldn't understand her." Fiona squeezed the woman's hand. "She's an amazing child. It's been our privilege to have her with us." Janet nodded, blinking back tears. "Ms. Hayes told me about the job, about Lily staying at that fancy school. I keep thinking it's too good to be true, that there must be a catch." "I felt the same way," Fiona admitted. "But sometimes good things really do happen, especially when someone like Geraldine decides to make them happen." "Why us, though? Why me? I'm just—" Janet gestured at herself, at the simple clothes provided by the treatment center, at the visitor's badge clipped to her shirt. "Because Lily deserves every opportunity," Fiona said simply. "And because you're doing the hard work to be the mother she needs. That takes courage." The woman straightened slightly at the word courage, as if it were a garment she was trying on for the first time. "I won't let her down again," she promised, "or you." January brought the start of Fiona's new position at Northcrest. The elementary division was housed in a separate wing of the sprawling campus, designed with thoughtful attention to the needs of younger learners. Her classroom was spacious and well-equipped, with technology she'd only dreamed of at Westridge. Her new colleagues welcomed her warmly, without the skepticism or resentment she'd grown accustomed to. Here her teaching philosophy centered on respecting children's autonomy, while providing the structure they needed to thrive, was not just accepted, but celebrated. "We've heard wonderful things about your approach," the elementary division head told her during orientation. Geraldine speaks very highly of your ability to connect with children others have given up on. The comment brought Lily to mind. Following Owen's suggestion, Fiona had arranged for the girl to be assessed by Northcrest's educational psychologists. The results confirmed what Owen had intuited. Beneath Lily's trauma and self-protective quietness lay a mind of extraordinary potential, particularly in visual spatial reasoning and creative problem-solving. She processes information differently than Owen, Dr. Reeves explained as they reviewed the assessment results. Where he excels in abstract theoretical concepts, she has an almost uncanny ability to visualize complex systems and their interactions. In many ways, they're complementary intelligences. The school offered Lily a modified version of the Horizon program, tailored to her specific strengths and learning style. When told about this opportunity, the girl had reacted with disbelief, then cautious excitement. "But I'm not smart like Owen," she'd protested. "I don't know big words or math formulas." "Intelligence comes in many forms," Fiona had explained. "Your brain sees patterns and connections that others miss. That's a kind of brilliance too." Now, as January turned to February and the rhythm of their new life solidified, Fiona watched. Both children flourish in environments that challenged and supported them. Owen's theoretical work was beginning to attract attention beyond Northcrest, with a paper he'd co-authored with Professor Chen accepted for publication in a prestigious scientific journal. Lily, meanwhile, had created a series of three-dimensional models that her mentors believed might have applications in architectural design and city planning. In rare moments of quiet reflection, Fiona marveled at the transformation of their lives. Just months ago, she'd been counting pennies for bus fare, enduring Warren's petty tyrannies, wondering how she would ever provide Owen with the opportunities his mind deserved. Now they lived in a comfortable apartment, worked and studied at one of the finest educational institutions in the country, and had expanded their family circle to include Lily and, increasingly, Janet. One evening in late February, as winter's grip began to loosen and the first hints of spring appeared in tiny green buds on the trees lining their street, Fiona's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Ms. Parker, this is Detective Morales with the Chicago Police Department." Fiona's heart stuttered. "Yes, is everything all right? I'm calling about Albert Warren, the principal at your former school, Westridge Elementary." The mention of Warren's name sent a chill through Fiona. "What about him?" "I understand you resigned from that position in December. Did Mr. Warren ever behave inappropriately toward you or students under your care?" The question hung in the air, loaded with implications. Fiona closed her eyes, memories washing over her. Warren's dismissal of Lily's bruises, his insinuations about her relationship with Geraldine, his constant undermining of her efforts to help the most vulnerable students. "Ms. Parker, are you there?" "Yes," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Yes, there were concerns. Why are you asking?" The detective explained that Warren was under investigation following complaints from several staff members and parents. Allegations ranged from misappropriation of school funds to creating a hostile work environment to more serious charges of ignoring mandatory reporting requirements regarding suspected child abuse. "We're trying to establish a pattern of behavior," Detective Morales explained. "Your name came up as someone who might have relevant information." Fiona agreed to provide a statement, arranging to meet with the detective the following day at the police station. After hanging up, she sat motionless on the couch, emotions swirling, vindication, anxiety, a complicated satisfaction that Warren's behavior was finally being recognized for what it was. The sound of the front door opening broke her reverie. Geraldine entered, having picked up the children from their respective after-school programs, a routine they'd established when Fiona had afternoon faculty meetings. "Earth to Fiona," Geraldine said, studying her face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Not a ghost, just the past coming back around." She quickly recounted the detective's call. Geraldine's expression remained neutral, perhaps too carefully so. "I see." "Did you have something to do with this?" Fiona asked directly. The older woman shrugged elegantly. "Let's just say certain. Concerns about Westridge's administration may have found their way to appropriate authorities. The rest is simply the system working as it should." Before Fiona could pursue this line of questioning, The children burst into the living room, excited, to share their day's accomplishments. Owen had solved a particularly challenging physics problem that had stumped even his mentor. Lily had been invited to display her three-dimensional city model at a symposium on urban planning. Their enthusiasm pushed the conversation about Warren aside, but later, after the children were in bed, Geraldine returned to the subject. "Will you give a statement?" she asked, sipping the tea Fiona had prepared. "Yes," Fiona said without hesitation. There were too many children who suffered because of his neglect and self-interest. If my testimony helps remove him from a position where he can hurt more kids, I have to do it. Geraldine nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "That's why I knew you were special from the first moment I saw you with those children. You don't just talk about doing the right thing. You do it even when it's difficult." "I'm not sure I deserve that much credit," Fiona demurred. "I'm just a teacher trying to do my job properly." "And that's exactly why you deserve it," Geraldine countered, "because you still don't see how extraordinary you are." The next day, Fiona gave her statement to Detective Morales, a detailed account of Warren's pattern of neglect and hostility. It was both cathartic and unsettling to put these experiences into official record, to name what she had endured and witnessed. "Your testimony is consistent with what others have told us," the detective said afterward. "It helps establish a clear pattern of behavior." "What happens now?" Fiona asked. "The investigation continues. If charges are filed, there may be a trial. Would you be willing to testify if needed?" The prospect was daunting, facing Warren in court, having her professional life scrutinized, potentially exposing Owen and Lily to public attention. But the alternative, remaining silent while Warren potentially continued to harm vulnerable children, was unthinkable. "Yes," she said firmly, "I'll testify if needed." As winter gave way to spring, their new life settled into a rhythm that increasingly felt like normality rather than a temporary reprieve. Janet completed her treatment program ahead of schedule, moved into a modest apartment provided as part of her employment package, and began training for her administrative role at Northcrest. The transition of Lily's care was gradual and thoughtful, with the girl spending increasing amounts of time with her mother while maintaining her connection to the Parkers. By April, she was living primarily with Janet, but spent weekends with Fiona and Owen, an arrangement that allowed all of them time to adjust. "It's like having two rooms in the same big house," Lily explained to her therapist during a family session that included both Janet and Fiona. "I just sleep in different beds on different nights, but it's all home." The adults exchanged smiles over the girl's head, united in their commitment to making this unconventional arrangement work for her benefit. Spring brought other changes as well. The investigation into Warren resulted in his suspension from Westridge and eventually criminal charges related to financial mismanagement and failure to report suspected child abuse. The news made headlines in local papers, bringing a flurry of calls from Fiona's former colleagues. "You were right all along," Ms. Diaz, the school librarian, told her. "About Warren, about the kids, about everything," Ms. Diaz continued. "I should have supported you more. A lot of us should have." Fiona felt no satisfaction in their belated recognition, only a quiet hope that Westridge might become a better place for its students now that Warren's toxic influence was gone. "What matters is what happens next," she told Ms. Diaz. "Those children still need advocates." In late April, Owen received an extraordinary invitation, the opportunity to attend a summer intensive program at MIT designed for exceptionally gifted young mathematicians and physicists. Professor Chen would be one of the instructors, ensuring continuity in Owen's mentorship. "It's a tremendous honor," Dr. Reeves explained during a meeting with Fiona. "They've never accepted someone so young before." Fiona felt the familiar mixture of pride and apprehension. 2 weeks in Cambridge, surrounded by older students and university professors. Would Owen be overwhelmed? Would he be safe? Would he miss home? When she shared these concerns with her son, he surprised her with his confidence. "I want to go, Mom," he said simply. "I think I'm ready." Looking at him, still small for his age but standing straighter now, his eyes clear and direct, Fiona realized he was right. He was ready. And perhaps more importantly, she was ready to let him take this next step. Then we'll make it happen, she promised. That night, after Owen was asleep, Fiona sat on their small balcony watching the Chicago skyline glitter against the night sky. So much had changed in the past 6 months, from desperate survival to this, a life with breathing room, with possibilities, with a community of support she'd never thought possible. Her phone chimed with a text from Geraldine. Congratulations on Owen's MIT invitation. Truly remarkable. But then so is his mother. Fiona smiled, no longer uncomfortable with the praise. She had learned to accept help, to acknowledge her own worth, to believe that perhaps she deserved good things too, not just her children. May brought the end of the school year, and with it a ceremony honoring Northcrest's exceptional students. Both Owen and Lily were recognized, he for his theoretical work with Professor Chen, she for her three-dimensional urban planning models that had attracted interest from actual city planners. Sitting in the audience between Geraldine and Janet, Fiona watched as the children accepted their certificates, their faces shining with the special glow that comes from being truly seen and valued for one's unique gifts. They're going to change the world, Janet whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Both of them. They already have, Fiona replied. They've changed ours. After the ceremony, as families mingled at the reception, Fiona was approached by a severe-looking woman she recognized as the chair of Northcrest's Board of Trustees. Ms. Parker, the woman said, extending her hand. I've heard remarkable things about your work in the elementary division. Thank you, Fiona replied, somewhat taken aback by the attention. We're developing a new outreach initiative, the board chair continued. A partnership between Northcrest and several underperforming schools in the district, including your former school, Westridge. We need someone to lead it, someone who understands both worlds. Geraldine suggested you might be interested. Fiona's mind raced. An outreach program? A leadership position? This was beyond anything she'd imagined for herself. I'd need to know more about what it entails, she said carefully. Of course, we'll set up a formal meeting, but essentially, we're looking to share resources, best practices, and possibly establish a scholarship pathway for promising students from disadvantaged backgrounds. The woman smiled slightly. Geraldine speaks very highly of your ability to identify potential where others miss it. As the board chair moved on to greet other families, Geraldine appeared at Fiona's elbow. Before you ask, yes, I recommended you, she said without preamble. But the interest in your qualifications is genuine. You've made quite an impression these past months. Fiona shook her head in amazement. 6 months ago, I was just trying to keep our heads above water. And now you're swimming, Geraldine finished for her, strong and sure, exactly as I knew you could. The summer unfolded with its own rhythms and milestones. Owen departed for MIT, accompanied by Fiona, who spent 2 days helping him settle into the dormitory before returning to Chicago. Though she worried constantly, his daily texts and enthusiastic video calls reassured her that he was thriving in the company of people who understand quantum mechanics jokes. Lily divided her time between art camp, where her talent continued to blossom, and special tutorials through Northcrest's summer program. The girl who had once hidden behind her hair, fearful of drawing attention, now eagerly shared her creations and ideas. Janet thrived in her new position, her organizational skills making her indispensable to the admissions department. She and Fiona developed a friendship built on mutual respect and their shared love for Lily, often meeting for coffee to coordinate schedules and share parenting insights. The investigation into Warren concluded with a plea deal. He would resign permanently from education, pay restitution for misused funds, and serve probation rather than jail time. The outcome felt anticlimactic to Fiona, yet she recognized that the most important result had been achieved. He would never again be in a position to harm vulnerable children. June gave way to July, July to August. Owen returned from MIT transformed, not just taller, though he had grown an astonishing 2 inches in 6 weeks, but more confident, more willing to speak up, to assert his ideas. Professor Chen says I should consider publishing my work on neutrino oscillation, he announced over dinner his first night home, as casually as if discussing a school assignment. Fiona blinked. Publishing, as in a scientific journal. Owen nodded, mouth full of the lasagna she'd prepared as a welcome home meal. He has connections at Physical Review Letters. They're interested in my approach. Lily, who was spending the weekend with them, looked up from her plate. That's the big important science magazine, right? The one where they announced the Higgs. Bosun. Owen nodded again, pleased by her recognition. The two children had developed a sibling-like relationship, comfortable enough to bicker over bathroom time, but fiercely supportive of each other's achievements. Wow, Owen, that's extraordinary, Fiona said, trying to wrap her mind around the fact that her 9-year-old son, soon to be 10, was discussing publication in one of the world's most prestigious scientific journals. He shrugged, suddenly shy again. It's just a theory. A theory that Professor Chen thinks is worth publishing, Lily pointed out loyally. That's a big deal, Owen. As August drew to a close, Fiona prepared for her new role leading Northcrest's outreach initiative. The position would involve regular visits to partner schools, including Westridge, coordination with administrators, and development of specialized programming for promising students from disadvantaged backgrounds. You're building a bridge, Geraldine told her during a planning session, a way for children like Owen and Lily to find their way to opportunities they deserve, regardless of their starting point. The work was challenging, but deeply rewarding, allowing Fiona to combine her teaching skills with her hard-earned understanding of the barriers facing underprivileged students. Each time she identified a child with hidden potential, each time she connected that child with resources that might change their trajectory, she felt a profound sense of rightness, as if this had been her purpose all along. Early September brought Owen's 10th birthday, celebrated with a small but joyful gathering at their apartment. Professor Chen made a surprise appearance, bearing a gift-wrapped copy of the journal that had accepted Owen's paper for publication. It will be in the November issue, he told the astonished birthday boy, but the editorial board wanted you to have an advance copy. Owen's face as he held the journal, his name listed among renowned physicists many times his age, was a sight. Fiona knew she would treasure forever, pure wonder mixed with the dawning realization of his own capabilities. Later that evening, after the guests had departed and Lily had gone home with Janet, Owen approached Fiona with an unusually serious expression. "Mom, can I ask you something important?" "Of course, sweetheart." She patted the couch beside her, and he sat, hands fidgeting in his lap. "Do you think Dad would be proud of me? Really proud, not just because I'm his kid, but because of what I'm doing?" The question caught Fiona by surprise, though perhaps it shouldn't have. Victor had been gone for nearly 3 years, but his absence remained a presence in their lives, especially at milestone moments like these. "Oh, Owen," she said softly, taking his hands in hers, "your father would be beyond proud. He always believed you would do extraordinary things. Even when you were tiny, he would watch you figuring out puzzles or building structures with your blocks, and he'd say, 'That boy is going to change the world someday.'" Owen's eyes filled with tears. "I wish he could see it. The paper, MIT, everything. I believe he does see it," Fiona said, surprising herself with the certainty she felt. "Not in a supernatural way, maybe, but in the sense that he helped shape who you are. His curiosity, his determination, his kindness. They're all part of you. So in a way, he's present in everything you accomplish." Her son leaned against her, neither child nor adult, but somewhere in the liminal space between. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the last light of the day fade from the sky outside their window. "Mom," Owen said finally, "I'm glad we're here, in this apartment at Northcrest with Lily and Ms. Hayes and everything. Even though I miss Dad, I'm glad we found our way here." Fiona hugged him close, her heart full. "I'm glad too, sweetheart. So very glad." As autumn settled over Chicago, painting the trees in fiery hues and bringing a crisp edge to the air, Fiona found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. From the desperate days after Victor's death, through the years of struggle at Westridge, to that pivotal moment when Geraldine Hayes had approached her in the school cafeteria, Each step, even the painful ones, had been necessary to reach this new chapter. Her phone chimed with a text from Janet. Lily's art teacher wants to enter her cityscape in a national competition. Call me when you can. Followed immediately by one from Geraldine. Board approves expansion of outreach program. Full funding. For 20 scholarships next year. You're changing lives, Fiona. And finally, a notification from MIT's summer program. Applications open for returning students. Professor Chen specifically requests Owen Parker's participation. Fiona smiled, setting the phone aside to watch the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to help children find their path. But tonight, in this moment of perfect stillness, she allowed herself to simply be grateful. For second chances, for unexpected kindnesses, for the remarkable journey that had brought her family to this place of possibility and hope. The following. Morning. As she prepared for a day of meetings with potential partner schools, Fiona paused before a photograph recently added to her desk. Owen and Lily at the science fair, both beaming with pride beside their respective projects. Beside it stood the framed drawing Lily had given her at Christmas. My second family. These were the moments that mattered, she thought, not the accolades or publications or prestigious programs, though those were wonderful too. What mattered were the children themselves, their growing confidence, their expanding horizons, their belief in their own potential. And perhaps that was the most unexpected gift of this journey, the realization that in helping Owen and Lily discover their strengths, Fiona had finally recognized her own, not just as a mother or a teacher, but as a woman with the courage to accept help when offered, to stand firm against injustice, to build a life that was more than mere survival. As she gathered her materials and prepared to leave for her first appointment, Fiona's phone rang with Geraldine's number. "Good morning," she answered, tucking the phone between her ear and shoulder as she searched for her keys. "Good morning. To you," Geraldine replied, sounding unusually excited. "I've just had the most interesting call from the Mayor's education advisor. It seems our little outreach program has caught some important attention. They want to use it as a model for citywide implementation." Fiona froze, keys forgotten. "Citywide? As in all Chicago public schools?" "Exactly. They're forming a task force and want you to be part of it. This could change everything, Fiona. Not just for a handful of students, but for thousands." The magnitude of the opportunity took her breath away. From one classroom at Westridge to potentially influencing educational policy across the entire city. It seemed impossible, yet here it was, being offered to her. I don't know what to say," she admitted. "Say yes," Geraldine advised simply. "Say yes, and then we'll figure out the details together. That's what partners do." Partners. The word resonated with unexpected warmth. Not charity recipient and benefactor, not employee and employer, but partners in a shared mission. "Yes," Fiona said, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. "Yes, I want to be part of this." She could almost hear Geraldine's smile through the phone. "I knew you would. That's why I recommended you in the first place, because you never stop believing in what's possible, even when the odds seem impossible." After hanging up, Fiona stood for a moment in the center of her apartment, overwhelmed by a sense of having come full circle. From the woman who had once pressed her coat tighter against her thinning frame, counting pennies for her son's lunch, to this, a respected educator with the opportunity to shape policy, to create change at a systemic level. The journey wasn't over, of course. There would be new challenges, new doubts, new moments when she would question her capabilities or the path ahead. But she was no longer walking that path alone, and that made all the difference. With a deep breath and a determined smile, Fiona Parker picked up her keys and stepped out into the bright September morning, ready to continue the work of opening doors for her children, for herself, and for all the overlooked, underestimated children still waiting for someone to recognize their worth. Congratulations. Type 9 in the comments so that I know you stayed until the end with me. Thank you for watching, and until tomorrow's story on this same channel.